Standard 10, Geography, Chapter number 1, Field Visit. Day 2, 7 hours. After breakfast.
Before we go to the beginning of day 2 journey, let's have a recapitulation of the two sessions that you had earlier. Last week, you all studied that the school kids have started their educational excursion from Naldurg, a small sleepy town in Osmanabad district which was earlier called Dharashiv. The journey is done by road via Solapur, Indapur, alongside the Ujni Reservoir, Pune, and Sinhagad. Now they are proceeding towards Alibag, their final destination, via Lonavla and Khopoli. In order to reach Pune from Solapur, they crossed the Balaghat ranges, which are actually the eastern offshoots of the Sahyadri ranges. The day 2 journey starts off at 7 am after breakfast. As shown in the slide over here, you can see Naldur is located in the southeastern part of Maharashtra, and now the journey is moving slowly towards the northwest of Maharashtra. The bus is now crossing Sinhagad and entering into one of the most loftiest mountain ranges of India, that is the Western Ghats, which are also called the Sahyadri mountain ranges.
First, they proceeded to Alibag. Now, we are on the Mumbai-Pune Expressway. Can you see the changes in the relief again? We will.
Now, here, if you just go back and see the
Now, we are on the Mumbai-Pune Expressway.
you can see there the Mumbai Pune Expressway. Now, let me tell you something about this Mumbai Pune Expressway. It is India's first 6-lane concrete high speed expressway. Total distance of 94.5 kilometers is that what it covers. It connects the two important cities of Mumbai, which is called the commercial capital or financial capital of India, and of course, Pune, the cultural and educational capital of Maharashtra state. The teacher is now pointing towards the Rajmachi point. Now, what is so special about this Rajmachi point? Let's see.
Can you see the changes in the relief again?
The teacher pinpoints about the changes in the relief. The Rajmachi point is located near Duke's retreat. Rajmachi is called so as it is located near the Rajmachi fort surrounded by valleys and waterfalls, and was constructed by the Satvahana rulers, and later this citadel was captured by the Maratha warrior king Sri Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj from the rulers of Bijapur. Coming to another important location, Lonavla. Lonavla is 624 meters above sea level. This makes it a famous hill station of Maharashtra. Situated in Pune district, it lies 64 kilometers away from the city of Pune. Also famed for chikkis, that is hard candies, the Bhaja and the Karla caves and the Bushi Dam are very close by. Another important point I would like to focus on is about the Ghat Pass. Remember, the teacher spoke about the Bhor Ghat? Well, the Bhor Ghat is the official name of the Khandala Ghat, as this ghat is one of the busiest ghats which connects the Konkan region with that of rest of Maharashtra and rest of India. It is 18-kilometer long pass between Khandala in Pune district and Khopoli in Raigad district. Do you know, children, that about 24,000 Indian workers lost their lives to make this British dream of connecting Konkan to Desh, that is the plateau? For details, you may refer to the Journal of Railway History, where the story of Great Indian Peninsula Railway, GIPR, India's oldest railway network service, has been often repeated. Let's continue.
We will stop at Rajmachi Point near Lonavala.
Yes, madam. Even though we are driving on a plain road, we can see hilly regions all around. The frequency of houses.
Now the child says that even they are drawing or they are moving on a plain road. Well, this was once upon a time a totally hilly and inaccessible area. So just imagine how much of efforts were taken in those times where there were no equipments. The Indian laborers, I told you earlier, 24,000 Indian workers, laborers, construction workers, they lost their precious lives constructing this Ghat Pass of Maharashtra or erstwhile British India.
Is becoming less.
After Lonavala, they stopped at Rajmachi Point and the teacher gave information about various relief features. These are the slopes of the Western Ghats. We call these hilly areas Sahyadris too.
Now you can see the teacher is pinpointing the steep slopes of the Sahyadris. Now the Sahyadri has two sides, one which is moving towards the west and the other slope which moves towards the east. Can anyone tell me which one is steeper? Well, you guessed it right. It is the western side which has a very steep slope, unlike the eastern side which has a gentle one, because the eastern side is actually a plateau region. And that's the reason you can see a lot of valleys, dense forest and steep slopes in the western side of the Sahyadris, that is the Konkan region.
From here, you can observe the difference in slopes, the gentle slope to the east and the steep slope to the west. Towards the west, you can see many cliffs and waterfalls up.
Now you can see over here there is a small river which is in between. Now these are actually these are born due to small rills and rivulets and springs which bounce out from the steep mountain ranges of the Sahyadris, and they form rivers. These rivers are very short and swift when they move towards the Konkan region. If they are westward flowing, they are narrow, they are small, they are very short and very swift. Unlike if the rivers they are moving towards the east, they are more broader and they are more longer because they have to go and meet the Bay of Bengal, which is almost 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers away from the Western Ghats. Whereas this on the western side of the Sahyadris, all these rivers, they are not more than 600 or 500 kilometers in length,
about which you have learnt in class 9th. This region is also the source of river Ulhas, a major west-flowing river.
Now here the teacher talks about an important river which is called as the Ulhas. We all are very aware of a suburban railway station of Thane district, Ulhasnagar. Very true. The Ulhasnagar railway station has been named so because it lies exactly on the banks of the river Ulhas. The river Ulhas is 122 kilometers long, west flowing river. It drains an area of 4,637 kilometers square and supplies drinking water to Badlapur, Kalyan, Dombivli and also to Navi Mumbai city.
The students took photographs of these features. It started raining again, and then
Now, why are the children very crazy about taking photographs? As I told you, a geography student or a student of geography has to be very, very alert. He has to treasure all these places and keep and store them in their memory books. And that's the reason at every point they try to click photographs so that they can be preserved and they can be helpful for them in the near future. Another important point is it started raining. Now, western coast of India receives one of the highest rainfalls in India. Do you know, children? As it is close to the Arabian Sea, the southwest monsoon winds, which blow from the Arabian Sea, give tremendous rainfall because they carry a lot of moisture and they dash across the Sahyadri mountain ranges, giving torrential rainfall towards the western coastal strip, that is Konkan region of Maharashtra.
their journey resumed.
Madam, we are crossing the Ghat section. And now, are we going to Khopoli?
Correct, Namdev.
Now, the children are a little bit more excited about another destination, Khopoli. Khopoli lies exactly at the foothills of the Sahyadri mountain ranges. This is one of the developing industrial centers of Navi Mumbai as well as Raigad. Have you heard about the ad labs, dear children? Very true. The ad labs are very close by to Khopoli. Now we move on to the next destination.
This is known as the Bhor or Khandala Ghat in the Western Ghats.
I told you that the Sahyadris have many ghat passes, the Thal Ghat, the Bhor Ghat, and also many such other ghats from Palghar district in the north part of Maharashtra right up to Sindhudurg district in the southernmost end of Maharashtra. But the two most important passes are the Thal Ghat, which is also called as the Kasara Ghat, which links Mumbai to Nasik and Delhi, whereas the second one, which is now shown in your monitor screens, Bhor or Khandala Ghat, which connects Mumbai with not only Pune but entire southern India and the rest of eastern India.
We will now enter the western coastal plains of India.
Now here you can see the western coastal plain. The western coastal plain is so very narrow. What could be the reason that the western coastal plain, which starts from Gujarat, southern Gujarat, and crosses Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Kerala, and ends up in Tamil Nadu, this entire region is so narrow? What could be the reason? Well, dear children, it is because the Western Ghats are very close to the Arabian Sea. And that's the reason you find the Western coastal plain is very, very narrow, unlike the Eastern coastal plain.
Observe the trees, soil, and houses that you see.
Now, Here the teacher says, children, look at the trees, the houses, and the other features, relief features in the Konkan region, because they started all the way from the southeastern end of Maharashtra. Do you remember from where did they start? Yes, it is Osmanabad district, a dry area in southeastern part of Maharashtra. And as they move towards the Konkan region, you can see, the children can see the changes in the vegetation. Earlier, when they started in Osmanabad district, it was totally dry. There were only thorns and shrubs and bushes. And when they moved towards Pune and the Western Ghats, slowly and steadily, there is a dense network of trees. You can see dense forests. And finally, when they come to Konkan, it becomes much, much denser. Also, you can see the houses. The houses in the Konkan region, they have sloping or slanting roofs, unlike in the plateau region of Maharashtra. Because the reason is, the plateau region receives very scanty to moderate rainfall. But in the Konkan, as the rainfall content is very high, it is very, very essential to have a sloping roof. This will enable the water, the rainwater, to slide away down without any leakages or water gathering on the rooftops.
Trees, soil, and houses that you see.
Now look at the trees. I told you over here, as this particular region, the Konkan, is having thick, dense trees. We call this forest as a tropical evergreen forest. These forests are always green throughout the major part of the year because of a heavy sunshine and also heavy rainfall. But when we looked at the Sahyadri eastern side, you could see deciduous forests. Now, what are deciduous forests or deciduous trees? Trees which shed their leaves in the winter season. I told you the plateau region is cold, but Konkan is a hot region. So, according to that, you can see the changes in the vegetation as also the woods or the forests.
Madam, we can see dense forests comprising of thick vegetation in the Ghats. We can see trees with broad leaves.
Now, why is the child saying that they can see trees with broad leaves? Now, this is because the entire region gets tremendous rainfall, and that's the reason you can see broader leaves in the regions which have heavy rains. Unlike in the regions which are arid and semi-arid, you will find either there are no leaves or the leaves are very, very small and very, very narrow. Okay, this is to avoid transpo evaporation.
We had seen such trees in the Sinhgarh region too.
These are the teak trees. This region.
Now the teacher talks about the trees. Okay, which species of trees or these forests belong to? Well, these are the teak trees. Teak is a very, very commercially important wood. This wood has tremendous commercial demand, or it has a tremendous market all across the globe. And owing to its durability, and as it is very expensive, as it is in great demand and the supply is limited, the cost of teak is much, much higher. As you study in economics, that when the supply is high, okay, what happens? The cost comes down. Okay, the demand also. When the demand is high, what happens? If the demand rises, the cost also is higher. Are you getting? So, demand, supply, all these things you should correlate with this.
Is a region of deciduous trees. There are many Vanarais and Devarais.
Now, let me talk about Vanarais and Devarais. Let's move on first to Vanarai. Vanarai plantation of trees. Okay, Vanarai is actually the plantation of trees to increase the rainfall in the mountains of various parts of India. Okay, Vana means forest. Okay, second, when we talk about Devrai, Dev means related to God. So these are dense, well managed plantations on the outskirts of villages for sacred plants according to Vriksha Ayurveda. Maharashtra alone has 1,600 such groves spread across in Pune, Kolhapur, Raigad and Ratnagiri districts. So that is the reason Dev rice are more important as compared to one rice.
Lands and sacred groves. After crossing the Ghats, the dense forest became sparse.
Now you can see the U-pin bends all across the Western Ghats and the Sahyadris. You can see such type of breathtaking views and U-pin bends. Okay, because you will never find flat terrain in the Konkan region. Now let's move on further.
Paddy fields and huge industrial estates were now.
Now, as I told you, paddy fields, I told you Konkan, basically because of the heavy rainfall. What can grow in heavy regions of rainfall? It's the rice. Rice is paddy. Okay, so you can see extensive paddy fields, and along with that, as you are coming closer and closer to Mumbai, you can see a lot of industrial estates. So we are very close to Khopoli.
Now visible.
Madam, I can feel a change in the weather. It is getting hotter.
Well, the child speaks immediately and says, now we can feel the pinch of the heat. Why is it so, dear children? As I told you, the plateau region is at a height, it's at elevation of more than 500 meters above sea level. And that's the reason the temperature in the plateau region or Desh of Maharashtra is always lesser as compared to the Konkan region. Konkan has a very hot and humid climate. That's the reason every person throughout the year, for all the 12 months, perspires a lot because of the tremendous humidity owing to the proximity to the Arabian Sea.
And I have started perspiring.
You feel the change in the air. Because of increasing humidity in the air, we start perspiring and skin becomes sticky. As we go near the sea, this will increase.
Madam, it has started raining in this region. Also, the amount of rainfall seems to be more. It might be happening because of this.
Namdev, correct observation. Because of heavy rainfall and nearness to the sea, this happens. Also, because of high rainfall, rice is the major crop here. Soon, we will reach the sea. Can you name the sea?
The Arabian Sea.
Good. After reaching Alibag, before we go to our lodges, we will visit the Talati office.
Now the teacher mentions the word Talati office. I hope many of you all are unclear with the terminology Talati. Well, I'll tell you who exactly a Talati is. A Talati is a person who maintains crop and land records of a village. Also, he does tax collection, revenue, irrigation, dues collection. So the office where all this is maintained, all these records are maintained, is called the Talati office. Okay, children? Okay.
You can gather information on the basis of the questionnaire you have prepared in the school.
Now the teacher talks about the questionnaire. Now, what's a questionnaire? Oh, that's right. A questionnaire is a set of printed written questions with a choice of answers devised for purpose of a survey or statistical study. Okay, so that is the reason it is very essential for a geography student to be prompt in making questionnaires, so that then and there itself you can draw or you can come to a conclusion.
We will be asking him questions about the types of crops, soil types,
Now, since the questionnaire is related to geography, of course, you will have to make questions which are related to the subject, like soil, trees, various particular wildlife species, topography, rainfall, climate, all these things. Okay?
cultivation of fruits and other cash crops. We are asking him how land revenue is collected in his or her office. Land under irrigation, watershed programs, and other occupations in the village.
They reached Alibag in the afternoon and then visited the Talati
Now they go to Alibag. Okay, final destination has come, and now they visit the Talati office.
office. They collected information based on their questionnaires. Dear students, after lunch, we will go to the sea coast. How many of you will be seeing the sea for the first time?
Now, this happens for all the children, those who are living away from the coast. And the children are very excited to go towards the coast of Alibag. And Alibag is a very, very beautiful destination, and I hope many of you all must have already visited. And if not, I request all of you all to just pay one brief visit with your family or with your friends.
Almost all of them raised their hands.
I am just trying to imagine what a breathtaking view it would be to see a sea. What will it look like? Or will there be just water?
True, Abira. We will visit the beach now. We have already given clear instructions regarding precautions to be taken there. We will also visit.
As a teacher is really very smart. The teacher has already given the guidelines and noted down the important precautions to be taken when the children are moving towards the sea, proceeding towards the sea. Right across the sea, you can see in the midst of the sea lies the beautiful Alibag Fort.
A fort called Kolaba or Alibag Fort here.
Now let me tell you something about the Alibag Fort. The old name of Alibag Fort was Kolaba Fort, an old military fortification inside the sea, 2 kilometers off from the Alibag shore. 35 kilometers south of Gateway of India, it is a 300-year-old fort, sea fort, built by the Hindu king Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in the year 1652. This was to checkmate the influence of the Portuguese, the Siddhis, who were very violent and constantly attacked the Hindavi Swaraj and the Hindavi Empire. Total height of the fort is 25 feet.
We will have to take into account the timings of the high and low tides as this is away from the coast in the sea.
Now the
We
teacher
have
talks
studied the
about
birth of sea.
the teacher talks about the high tide and the low tide. Now we all know, before we go to the tides, let me tell you something about what exactly the tides are and how many types of tides we have. Tides are the actual movements of the water, the soaring of the sea water which takes place throughout the globe. It is studied under oceanography, which is a branch of geography. There are two types of tides, one high and second one low. Both are caused by the moon's gravitational force, which is called tidal force in water. This tidal force causes earth and its water to bulge out on the side closest to moon and farthest to the moon. That is, you can say antipodal positions. These are called as the high tides. The tide interval between two high tides is 12 hours and 25 minutes. I hope this much information about tides will suffice, isn't it?
Sea waves in class 9. We will also identify some of the landforms formed by sea waves. Can you name some of them?
I hope many of you all must have remembered by now the various particular landforms, like we have the sandbars, we have the lagoons, we have the wave-cut platform, we have the sea caves, we have cliffs, etc., etc. These are the landforms which are created by the sea waves.
Beach, sea caves, wave platforms, sandbars.
Good! You remember them well. They visited the beach and the fort. Some of them also enjoyed sitting on horse-driven chariots, and some of them enjoyed horse rides.
Madam, this fort is different from the first two.
Good, Neha. Can you tell the difference between them?
Yes, madam, this fort was constructed in water while the other two were on land.
Good. This fort is built on a wave-cut platform. Because it is surrounded by seawater, it is called a sea fort. Earlier, these forts were built for the security of the seas. There are many such forts on the west coast.
Yes, I have heard the names like Sindhudurga, Janjira earlier.
Based on the information you have collected, can you tell what occupations are followed here?
Madam, fishing and agriculture, both the occupations are followed here.
Correct, Rahul. To which category do these occupations belong?
Madam, these are primary occupations.
True. Initially, fishing was the main occupation. Later on, agriculture was also practiced in this region but away from the shore. Coconut, betel nut, jackfruit, banana, and some spices are cultivated in the coastal plains. This is horticultural farming. Today, tourism has become.
Remember, children, the teacher mentioned the word horticulture. Can anyone tell me what exactly do you understand by horticulture? Okay, I'll give it. Horticulture means growing of flowers, fruits, ornamental plants, and vegetables. I repeat, what's horticulture? Horticulture is growing of flowers, fruits, ornamental plants, and vegetables.
Become an important occupation here. Afterwards, students spent some time playing on the sands of the beach and captured beautiful glimpses of the sunset in their cameras. After sunset, they came to their lodges. They discussed important points to compile their field visit report. After returning to their lodge, they had dinner and rested for the night at Alibag.